Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Badger Blitz TV. I'm Jake Kokorowski. We're doing live right now. Apologies for some technical difficulties getting this off for our first ever live streaming event. I'm senior writer over at BadgerBlitz.com, of course, part of the Rivals Network, delivering all the news and notes for Wisconsin football, Wisconsin basketball, Wisconsin football and basketball recruiting. And happy to have everybody here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Hopefully I'm doing this right. Hopefully you can hear me. We got a lot going on today. And feel free to provide comments if you guys can here on BadgerBlitz.com. If you guys have any questions, whatnot, I have a little thing up here for comments and reactions. Hopefully we enabled everything. If not, we'll get it right next time. But let's go into it. A lot of big news going on in the past couple of days. Some transfer news. Of course, talking Iowa, big game coming up. First off, let's get to the big news that hit Tuesday today. Tuesday afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. Michigan State transfer cornerback Kalon Gervin decides to commit to Wisconsin. Got to take a look at him. Some big news there. Former four-star cornerback, number 124 player in the nation for the 2018 class, according to Rivals. He played in 23 career games for Michigan State, 44 tackles, 4 passes defended. Last season started 6 games in 2020, had 22 tackles, those 4 passes that were defended, along with a fumble recovery for a touchdown, for that matter. Going back to some of the stuff back from when he was a recruit, had on top, obviously committed to Michigan State and signed, but he also had about 40 offers according to Rivals as well. So a long list out of Cass Tech in Michigan, that powerhouse in the Wolverine State. And before he transferred, this year, 2021 stats, 4 games, 14 tackles, and you've seen a couple of pictures over there from the Rivals 5-star challenge of them. Of course, credit goes to Rivals for having these pictures. John McNamara, our editor and recruiting analyst, talked to Gervin earlier this evening. Make sure you go to BadgerBlitz.com. I am working through all that too in terms of just what he said. Sounds like there are some teams after he announced that he was going to enter the transfer portal, some Power 5 schools that were in the mix as well. I think Boston College and Kansas were among those. Also, it's going to be very interesting for Wisconsin just what will come, in terms of the competition when it comes to the cornerback room, right? And that's right now, Caesar Williams, Fan Hicks are the starters. Hicks is a 5th-year starter. You're also looking at when you have Caesar Williams, a 6th-year player. Both of them, they move on. You're looking at a cornerback room that right now in the 2 deep has Dean Ingram, Alexander Smith, Dante Burton, Samar Melvin are all in the room, if you will, for Hank Poteet and the cornerbacks. They're in the 2 deep. You also have Ricardo Hallman, Al Ashford, Almon Williams. Max Lofi's technically a cornerback, even though we've seen him more in the slot during fall camp. Kalon will be able to go in, and he said that in the article that John published a little bit earlier this evening that he's got 2 years of eligibility remaining. And it'll be interesting to see just how he works in and where he is utilized down the road. I guess another thing for Wisconsin too, in terms of transfer news, on the opposite end, last week there was Devin Chandler, the wide receiver / kickoff returner. Now you're seeing Kayden Lyles on Monday afternoon announcing his intention to transfer, said taking a chance on himself basically when it came to his announcement on Twitter and social media in terms of what he wants to do. So that's going to be, that's intriguing there, because with Wisconsin, it's kind of going through the facts for Lyles. It does hit the offensive line depth for Wisconsin this season, even though he wasn't starting, even though Joe Tittman was the starter for most of the games this season. He's a former 4-star recruit himself, number 157 player in the country for the 2017 class, according to Rivals. One thing to note too about him, he moved from the offensive line to the defensive line in 2018 when they needed numbers, but that's when Garrett Rand was out for the year. And I remember Isaiah Loudermilk wasn't 100% either that season, but Lyles played in 12 games, 7 starts that season. And then on top of that, he moved back to the offensive line for the 2019 campaign, the Wisconsin's Rose Bowl season. And he was at left guard a little bit there. And, he also saw him at center when it came to that. And 34 career games played, 16 starts. So, out of the 7 starts that were on defensive line, 9 came on the offensive line. He worked at center for the first chunk of 2020 before he was injured against Indiana at home. But on top of that, too, he also, this year, he was competing with Joe Tippmann at that center spot. He was receiving reps during fall camp at first, but then next thing Tippmann kind of started taking over there, and then Tippmann, was the first team center, for the rest of the fall camp practices that we had saw as reporters. So again, definitely you see him here. This picture too. This is back from the Big Ten championship game back in 2019. You see another former Badger there in Jack Cohn running, but Lyles started in that game. And it was a very much, I guess some of the questions that remain now for Wisconsin, you're looking at this, I have some, I feel like these are like PowerPoint slides for me, but it kind of helps lead into discussions. The question they asked is just how does this affect the depth at the offensive line for the rest of 2021? He was going to be a fifth-year senior, or he is a fifth-year senior, same class as Tyler Beach, Josh Seltzner, Logan Bruss, and within that group, you're looking at a team that, Tippmann is the center, but if he goes down, who's next? There are 2 players in the past that have played that position, and they have played this season for Wisconsin, for that matter. And you have Tanner Bortolini, for that matter, who started. He played at center against Indiana, and he started 1 game too last year at that position. And he's a redshirt freshman, but he's been out at right tackle with Logan Bruss out for a couple of games earlier this season. And then you have Cormac Sampson, who right now is essentially wearing multiple numbers. There's an article on BadgerBlitz.com last week, I should say, on Saturday before the game, where we talked about his versatility, where he said that he's taking reps, at every position except for right tackle. And so, last year he started 2 games at center. He started 2 games in 2019 as a blocking tight end, if you remember him wearing number 85. But then also, this year he's worn, he's gone back to 62, which is what he wore last year. But he also, this year he's played 62. He was competing with Josh Seltzner at the left guard spot for fall camp. But then on top of that, he came in and he also he worked at left tackle. I believe he worked some center. Based off of my notes in fall camp, and I think he worked at least one day. There was one day where he received a couple reps at right guard. So, you've seen him too in the past few weeks wearing the number 46 because he's been utilized as an extra lineman, a jumbo lineman, a player that, or a, pseudo tight end, if you will. And he's been wearing the number 46 for eligibility rules on the line. So he could be an eligible receiver. And also just for some, I believe when you have that number, you can also move around in the formation. So those are 2 players that, could be in line there to play center if needed be, if Tippmann is injured. But it does hit the depth that way for Wisconsin. So, it'll be interesting just to see just what happens with Wisconsin going forward. It'll be interesting to see just with, like I said, the cornerback room coming up in 2022 with Gervin now in there and competing. I think there's a lot of depth in that group, a lot of playing experience. And then offensive line, obviously, next man up type mentality where you have players that are Joe Rudolph knows how to put his line in positions where they can be utilized in versatile ways and not just, cross training. He can cross train different positions. And so we'll see just what comes of it there. And, but for that matter, let's talk about Wisconsin, Iowa, right? We got to talk about transfer news. Let's go to Wisconsin, Iowa. Big matchup. A lot of talk about Big Ten West hopes on the line here. 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff on ESPN. And, of course, it's going to be in Camp Randall Stadium. And, we got that right there. And, I didn't put up my slides yet. But Camp Randall Stadium, you can watch it on ESPN. Obviously, is the place to go for if you watch it on TV. Radio, you have, of course, the Badger Sports Network, Matt LePay, Mike Lucas, Mark Tosher, and then, of course, Patrick Herb on the sideline there. But there's also national radio for ESPN will be in town. We'll have more of that. Actually, Tom Kickert from Hawkeye Report will be on this stream tomorrow, and we'll preview Wisconsin and Iowa as well, a little bit more in depth, talking about what the Hawkeyes will bring to Camp Randall Stadium early Saturday, and what could ultimately decide just whose hopes remain intact for the Big Ten West, unless chaos erupts and everyone starts losing to each other. So going back to my slide about who's questionable, this is a preliminary status report for Wisconsin that was put out yesterday by Wisconsin. You're looking at tight end Clay Cundiff, tight end Jack Eschenbach. You had inside linebackers Mike Mascalunas and Jordan Turner, and then you have outside linebacker Spencer Lytle and cornerback Alexander Smith. So those were the 6 that we had heard from Wisconsin that were questionable. And then who was going to be out? Tight end room is going to be thin again, which makes that interesting with Sampson for that matter, depending upon the depth. And we're going to be watching that on Saturday morning, just who's getting second team reps at center. But Cam Large, Hayden Rucci, outside linebacker Aaron Witt, all out on Saturday for Wisconsin against Iowa. So again, the big thing to watch, I think, for Wisconsin will be when you're looking at Wisconsin, really just how, when you see Wisconsin just, I guess, how are they going to utilize tight ends? It's going to be a physical matchup, a physical battle. We'll get more into this later this week with not just Tom tomorrow on Wednesday, but we'll also talk with, you're looking at John McNamara on Friday talking about key matchups and just what to watch for in, like I said, another key rivalry game, battle for the Heartland Trophy. It's always been a fun physical battle that I'm sure will live up to the physical billing going forward this weekend. So just some quick notes on Iowa's offense. And then before we get to Tyler Linderbaum in terms of what he'll bring as part of that Iowa offense, Iowa's offense right now, you're looking at with them, I'm waiting for my slide to pop up. It's taking its sweet time. Points per game, 28 points per game. Rushing yards per game, 116.6. That's 103rd in the FBS. This is an offense that likes to run first, pass second, right? That's what Matt Henningsen told reporters yesterday during media availability. Right now, the rushing game is not necessarily helping a lot. They're not averaging them a lot in yards per carry. Passing yards per game, they're close to 200. They have 68 points off turnovers, which is huge. Third down conversions, they're about 39%, but they have allowed 18 sacks. We know Wisconsin likes to get pressure on the quarterback. They had 6 last week against Purdue. And you saw just the type of performance one Leo Chanel had against the Boilermakers. A career-high 3.5 sacks, a career-high 5.5 tackles, and, of course, on way to Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week honors for the junior from Grantsburg, Wisconsin. You look at some of the defense as this starts loading up my slide. Let's hope it gets a little bit faster there. Points per game allowed, one of the best in the nation, only allowing 14.6 per game. That's tied for 3rd in the FBS. Rushing yards allowed per game, again, less than 90. That's 7th in the nation right now, heading into this week. And of course, Wisconsin's averaging over 200 plus when it comes to that. And really, with Wisconsin, you're looking, that's going to be one of the key matchups. We'll talk more about it tomorrow with Tom when it comes to what Iowa's done so well against the run. But for me, Wisconsin has established its identity a little bit more this year. The past 3 games with what they did against Illinois, what they did against Army, and what they did against Purdue, and racking up 391, 198, and I believe it was 198, and then 290 against Purdue. So passing yards allowed per game, they're about 211.3. Third down conversions, you're looking at, they allow 37% heading into this matchup, and then sacks. You're looking at, I would just say with that, it's going to be, they can get to the quarterback. They have about 15 through 7 games, so it's a little over 2 per contest. Again, key matchup for Wisconsin. If they have to go to the passing game, one, can it be consistent, but that involves, can they keep Graham Mertz upright and comfortable? And that's going to be, again, it's always a key when you face Iowa in a game like this where, again, turnovers are going to be key. And I didn't even mention there, I'll add this for tomorrow. They're one of the best in the nation in turnovers. If I'm not mistaken, they have 21 through 3 games. as well. So wrap this up in the next couple of minutes. One player to watch when you look at this game, it's going to be Tyler Linderbaum. Thankfully, I only had one player in there. Iowa center, started 28 consecutive games at center so far entering this game. That's according to Iowa's game notes that they released earlier this week. Claimed multiple All-America honors in 2020. Also a first-team All-Big Ten selection by the media. He moved from, the defensive line to the offensive line after the 2018 season, and obviously it's paid dividends, not just for him personally, but for Iowa in general and whatnot. He will be a key matchup. I think one of my favorite matchups this weekend will be Linderbaum taking on Wisconsin nose tackle Keanu Benton, who I think those two will both be playing on Sundays if they choose to. And so with that, let's go in and let's listen to a couple of players talk about Linderbaum. And that's going to be, when you see this up here as my screen acts up, let's get this back on there. Here, first, you're going to listen to Matt Henningsen, and then you're going to also listen to inside linebacker Jack Sanborn. Here they are from availability on Monday morning, talking about Iowa center Tyler Linderbaum. For that offensive line, Tyler Linderbaum, obviously well recognized. What stands out about his game from what you've seen on film so far?
And he's an athletic guy. He's quick, right? And a lot of time when you see a center like that with that type of quickness, you don't expect him to be as physical and as strong as he is. So it's definitely a unique challenge for us for Keanu up front in a zero to try and neutralize him because he's a playmaker. He's on the offensive line, but he's a playmaker, and that's real. So we're just gonna do whatever we can to neutralize him in the run game and get to the quarterback and pass.
Yeah. That guy is this offense. We look at Tyler Linderbaum in Iowa, the athleticism he's got, the communication, just what type of matchup does he bring? It's a little bit different than the traditional center.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a great player. It's going to be a challenge, but it's a challenge that I think Keanu's going to be up against him a lot. I think Keanu's looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it too, for sure. Because I expect him to be climbing up to near Leo from time to time. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, he's not only is he a physical blocker, he really pinch guys off up front, but he's also able to get off and pull around the edges, and he's got the speed and athleticism to do that. He's able to cut guys off and reaching to get through technique or something like that. So he brings a challenge, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun battle up front. It's going to be one that I think everyone's trying to look forward to. I'm sure they are too.
Oh, and of course, that was defensive end Matt Henningsen and inside linebacker Jack Sanborn. Of course, checking more from BadgerBlitz.com coming forward. We got a lot going on. Coming up this week, again, we have both written and you'll have Badger Blitz TV too. So there's video, there's streaming, there is... and this is a lot of fun too. We have, the written part. We'll have a podcast up talking about Wisconsin, Iowa too. So many different ways to digest Wisconsin, Iowa. We'd love to earn your business and have you subscribe to BadgerBlitz.com, of course, part of the Rivals Network. Real quick, where you can find us before I let you all go, because it's already been 20 minutes and time flies when you have fun.